to what extent do you feel that the programmes team actually had enough time to spend on exploring issues surrounding the design of programmes? I mean, in many ways, that was the primary reason for going down this route, to give people more time in the design phase.
In the case of the pilots that I was responsible for, they did have more time. It wasn't used optimally because the startup was slow for the reasons of anxiety about process that I referred to earlier, and the fact that it didn't come naturally to them to throw themselves into a discussion about aims and philosophy. What I conclude from that is two things, really. Firstly, that some leadership is essential, and that leadership has to be quite directive to some extent. And secondly, that for people to have discussions, people have to make themselves available, and technology doesn't of itself solve that. It's interesting that probably the major impetus for progress at 2 points in this process has been, firstly, the decision from the head of school that they actually needed an away day in which they got people off-site from their own site into a day-long discussion about key issues, which I think led to a step change in progress. And secondly, when they were brought into a face-to-face environment which was heavily supported by a member of staff from Kelt, in a number of workshops, which they now seem to want more of. So I think one conclusion from that is there is no substitute for face-to-face engagement as part of this process. And I think it would be a mistake to assume that all the conversation can just be on the basis of blogging or technology-based process. I think people need to have face-to-face discussions because they're richer.
And do you think, I mean, from my point of view as the project manager, we'd always tried to say, none of this means that you can't do that face-to-face stuff. But do you think that because we kind of put this technology in front of people, they almost felt that they had to do everything through this rather than just almost keep a note of the face-to-face processes, the kind of the novelty of the technology, think it's here, we must use it?
I think that needs re-emphasising to people who come new to this next year, and I also think, strangely, that there's an irony in the fact that you seek a process which makes it less about product at the end point in a validation or approval panel, and what you end up with, certainly as an interim position, is something which is a kind of anxiety about products to put as data on a site. In other words, people weren't liberated enough just to let their discussions go and plonk them on the site, or edit them and plonk them on the site. It was almost as though they thought, we don't know whether this video of a discussion will be good enough because we don't have any basis of checking it. And that's really odd, because you could, just as you could edit a document you put on a site, so you could edit a video.
Yeah.
And it's a real challenge. That I think we have to change the culture still.